The Valorian Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for 3,000 years. Their ships were legendary massive dreadnoughts that could vaporize planets, shields that had never been breached, weapons that bent the fabric of space itself. When their scout fleet detected the small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, they barely registered it as a threat. Commander Zixter stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "This Earth will make an excellent mining colony," he hissed to his second-in-command. "Preliminary scans show primitive nuclear technology. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel." What Zixter didn't know was that 2 humans were watching his fleet approach. Liu Chen sat in the dimly lit command center of Lunar Defense Station Alpha, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. At 28, he was the youngest tactical officer Earth's United Defense Force had ever commissioned. His dark eyes narrowed as he studied the alien formation. "Hazel, you seeing this?" he muttered into his com. 300 kilometers away. Aboard the orbital platform Sentinel-7, Hazel Rodriguez pulled up the same data. The 30-year-old systems engineer had designed half of Earth's defensive grid herself. Her mind raced as she analyzed the alien ship's energy signatures. "Arrogant," she whispered. "They're not even running evasive patterns. They think we're harmless. Should we hail them?" Leo asked. "Already tried. They ignored us." Hazel's jaw tightened. "They're charging weapons." The Valorian fleet opened fire without warning. Brilliant lances of plasma screamed toward Earth's major cities: New York, Tokyo, Mumbai, Lagos, Sao Paulo. The aliens expected vaporization. Instead, they watched in confusion as shimmering barriers appeared in the atmosphere, absorbing every shot. "Impossible!" Zixter shrieked. "No species at this development level should have quantum resonance shielding." Leo allowed himself a thin smile. "They don't know humans very well, do they?" Humanity had indeed appeared primitive to casual observers, but what the Valorians had missed was humanity's greatest strength. They learned from everything. Every science fiction story, every disaster scenario, every war game had prepared them for this exact moment. While they hadn't cracked FTL travel, they'd poured resources into defensive technology, artificial intelligence, and weapons systems that didn't require leaving the solar system to be devastatingly effective. "Hazel, you ready?" Leo's voice was calm, almost casual. "Defense grid is synchronized. AI tactical systems online. Railgun networks charged." She paused. "Leo, are we really doing this?" "They fired first. They made their choice." Hazel took a deep breath. "Then let's show them what happens when you underestimate Earth." Initiating protocol Mjolnir. What happened next would be studied by every spacefaring civilization for generations. Earth's moon, long dismissed by the Valorians as a useless rock, suddenly came alive. Dozens of camouflaged hatches opened across its surface. What emerged weren't missiles or conventional weapons, they were kinetic projectiles. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles, accelerated by electromagnetic railguns to 0.9% the speed of light. The Valorian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were useless against pure kinetic force. Traveling at relativistic speeds, the first dreadnought exploded so violently that 3 nearby cruisers were caught in the debris field. Zixter watched in horror as his impenetrable fleet began to disintegrate. "Evasive maneuvers," he screamed. "Return fire. Destroy that moon." But Leo was already 3 steps ahead. The moment the Valorians adjusted their trajectory, Earth's orbital platforms released swarms of autonomous drones, millions of them, each no larger than a softball, guided by quantum-entangled AI that could predict enemy movements before they happened. The drones didn't carry explosives. They didn't need to. They simply flew into the Valorian engines at incredible speeds, and physics did the rest. Fusion reactors destabilized. Power core went critical. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds died in silent explosions that lit up Earth's night sky. 14 ships down, Hazel reported, her voice tight with adrenaline. "Wait, they're retreating." "No." Leo's eyes were hard. "They're regrouping for another strike. These aren't the type to give up." "Hazel, activate the gravity wells." Hazel hesitated for only a second. This was the weapon they'd hoped never to use, a network of satellites that could manipulate localized gravity fields. Something humanity had developed by studying black holes and neutron stars. It was experimental, dangerous, and had never been tested at this scale. Activating now. Space itself seemed to twist around the Valorian fleet. Ships were pulled from their formations, slammed into each other by invisible hands of gravitational force. Hulls crumpled like paper. The few vessels that managed to escape the gravity. Wells found themselves facing another volley of kinetic projectiles. Zixter, his ship breaking apart around him, sent one final transmission. How? You're primitives. You don't even have F. Leo intercepted the message and responded, his voice cold. We don't need to travel to other stars to defend our home. You should have learned more about us before attacking. Humans don't start fights, but we finish them. The transmission cut off as the Eternal Dominion split in two. 14 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The Valorian Empire's unstoppable fleet was reduced to debris and distress beacons. Not a single human life had been lost. In the command center, Leo and Hazel shared a long look across their video link. The other empires will hear about this, Hazel said quietly. Good, Leo replied. Let them. Maybe they'll think twice before assuming we're easy prey. Across the galaxy, the Valorian distress signals were received by a dozen civilizations. The message was simple but terrifying. Earth, the primitive world without F, had destroyed the Empire's finest fleet in 14 minutes. The word spread quickly through the cosmic community. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Earth's age of isolation was over.